To order.
First item is I sent out an update on some cost allocations, more so just information for you. So when you see those department budgets, you aren't thinking that those departments are getting a bunch more money in personnel. It's just how Brenda went through and looked at vouchers and employees and all those things and tried to more reasonably allocate it. The water, we're gonna spread over 2 years to try to, so it doesn't all come on this year. So that's that. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I just want to make you aware of that. No changes in FICA or Medicare. WRS is going down by 0.15%, both on the employee and the employer side. So that looks about $15,000. And the health insurance, the original proposal, our preferred one was 7%, but our insurance consultant got them down to 3% increase next year. But we're only up 1.2% over the last 6 years. So that's
really good.
Really good. And the cost as far as health insurance will probably be about even because we have more employees that are single, so they're taking the single coverage, especially in the police department because we have a lot of younger employees. So, but those are just kind of updates so that when you see the numbers in the budget, you aren't wondering what happened with, because it'd be the city administrator budget, the clerk treasurer budget, and the IT budget for personnel. So.
Are we in our own pool for health insurance, or
We're partially self-insured, yes.
So the premiums are to some extent event-driven?
Yes.
So we haven't had any major events?
Well, yeah, we've had a couple, but they've been offset by
single coverage.
But a lot of the younger people don't have the health, not always, but for the most part, younger employees don't have the health issues that older employees do. And in fact, two out of the last 5 years, we've actually gotten some money back.
How young these four are.
We've actually gotten some money back. I mean, because it takes about 2 years. So earlier this year for 15 and 16, we got about $90,000 back from Preferred One because of the savings and stuff. It takes them a couple years to figure that out. So,
retirement system, is that due to performance of their fund, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So.
And what happened in the recession? Did we get hit pretty hard?
No, actually, 11, 12. When they brought us in 2009, they took us blind because the state wouldn't give us, they couldn't separate our pool data from everybody else's. In those first few years, we took some hits on the health insurance because, once they found out what was going on with our group, but really we haven't. I think even in 2012 and 11, I think there were 3 or 5% increases. So
I'm talking about, are you talking retirement, or?
Oh, it's not retirement. That's been pretty steady, somewhere between 6.5% and 7%.
Okay, so even when the market went way down, we
because
didn't
they've
get hit
got
hard?
$3.9 billion.
Just wanted to see if we need to be.
And they have two different pools. They have a core group and a variable. And you can if you want to go in the variable, but if the variable does bad, that's more high risk. They send it back to the employees. So if you choose to do that variable fund and they have a bad year, which they did in 11, 12, any employee who was in there, that part of their pension lost money. So they kind of send it back to the employee.
Okay.
But that was an employee choice.
Yes.
I'm going to switch gears on you here. The reallocation, what was the purpose for that?
I can talk about that.
Where are you looking, Rich?
The front page of the memo.
Between the revenue funds or the enterprise funds and the general fund. Last summer, I had looked at, as part of the budget, the percentage of their salaries that were being allocated to the enterprise funds for the administration and finance city clerk positions. And I did an allocation looking at, for example, for the IT, how much time they spent providing resources to the water fund or the wastewater fund, and how much space they used on servers. For accounts payable and finance, we looked at the number of accounts payable transactions that we processed for those funds compared to the entire city or the general fund. And what I found out is that we were allocating higher percentages of salaries to the enterprise funds or the water, wastewater parking fund than the employees that actually supported it for accounting, finance, and IT services were actually providing to those funds. And so I proposed a new wage allocation, lowering that percentage over to the enterprise funds. And part of the reason I did that is the pilot in lieu of taxes that comes into to the general fund from the water fund has risen. The budget for 2017 was $400,000. In 2019, that budget allocation or that revenue into the general fund from the water fund is going up to $500,000. And that is mandated by the PSC. It's a formula. It's based on not only the tax rate for the city, but also the school district. And so as the mill rate for the city and the school district increases, that allocation from the water fund over increases. And so we're proposing to increase the expenditures into the general fund, but we're also, the last 2 years, we've increased the revenue into the general fund too by $100,000. And I know that's a lot of
So a good
accounting,
chunk of it will
so
be
any
offset.
questions, let me know.
Yeah, a good chunk of it will be offset.
Good chunk of what?
Of what the increases you'll see in
The reallocation.
administrator, clerk treasurer, and IT will be offset by this payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay.
And this hasn't been changed since I've been here? Well, at least since 2004, when I took over HR. So that these percentages are based on something, at least 15 years old.
Is that going to hold steady after 2020, or is that?
The only thing that'll increase next year is water. All the other ones are, and that was actually the biggest one.
Is this an annual calculation you have?
That allocation, yeah, we would, I did a 3-year average, so I just wouldn't see that thing's going to change every year. We would,
Okay.
maybe look at it every 5 years.
Does that include the revenue funds? Does that include the boat launch?
No, boat launch resides in the general fund.
Okay.
So it's the water, wastewater, parking. Right now EMS, we haven't done the allocation, just because that we need to discuss where we're going with EMS
And then stormwater.
Okay.
and stormwater.
All right.
So that's just information on that. Next item is the staffing request. I gave you the information that was presented by the department heads. So randomly, Public Works is up first. If you all got the information, the department heads are here if you want them to explain it, or if you have questions for them, or.
So if you want to, I can just do a brief kind of summary, kind of how I came to this recommendation, and then answer any questions that you might have of me. So when I first got here, my predecessor was pushing for 2 additional staff members, one to handle the MS4 duties that'll be coming online here for us, and then another one to handle the Emerald Ash Borer, now that it's within the city. With me being here and speaking with some of the supervisor and fellow staff, I think at this point in time it'd be best to kind of combine those duties into one, and kind of tackle EAB when it becomes more of an epidemic within 3, 4, maybe 5 years when we're really going to need help. But at this point in time, it's more management of the EAB, getting kind of that upfront removals done. So my biggest thing with the recommendation is hiring someone to handle MS4 requirements, and that includes street sweeping, public outreach, illicit discharge testing, pre and post site construction. As far as runoff is concerned, we have to have annual records of that now. And so in my memo here, the first thing that I want you to note is our main sweeper operator informed us that he's not going to be coming back to us next year. And he's been a part-time employee for us for quite some time, and his salary is $15,000. So instead of hiring another part-time employee, we would look to hire a full-time employee to be kind of our main sweeper operator in the spring and in the fall. And then throughout the summer months, he would help with pond maintenance, testing, illicit discharge testing, construction, pre and post inspections, and then help out in the urban forestry department when needed. And then in the winter time, he would help with plowing, alleys, parking lots, and then when like Carmichael Ridge and the Lee properties develop and Atwood properties developed, he would help transition and help plow those areas. So that's kind of part one of my recommendation. And part two is kind of how we're suggesting of funding this position because it is a new position. And it kind of relates to the stormwater utility fund because 60% of the position would be covered under the stormwater utility. Currently, the stormwater utility fund is at $7.50, and that was first instituted in 2012 when the stormwater utility fund was first, done. It has been changed since that time. And in the memo, you can see what other communities are doing. So what we're recommending is upping that up to $12 per quarter for stormwater utility fund, up from $7.50. And that would help cover the cost of the full-time employee, and that also help cover some of the costs of our MS4 rehabilitation program with our ponds. Because right now we have over 100 ponds that basically haven't been touched in the years that they've been installed, and we need to get them back online and back where they're maintainable moving into the future. So that's kind of the gist of the position, kind of where the funds would be coming from, a majority of them. So it's kind of a two-part thing, because the position is going to be primarily related to stormwater utilities and coincide with MS4. If you're looking to approve the position, you're also looking to approve the increase in stormwater utility fund because it does support the position, if that makes sense.
We'd have to run that through council, but
We would have to run that through council ultimately, yes.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
On MS4, just for my knowledge base.
Yep.
How much of the 60% storm water utility is really spent on MS4? What would you see that as being, how much time? Is that like a big part of that, 60%?
I would probably, best guess, right off the tip of my head, probably be 25%
Of the 60?
of the 60.
Gotcha.
Yep. In the springtime and in the fall time, actually sweeping operations does coincide with MS4 requirements. I mean, they do require us to sweep our streets a certain period of time every week so that, we get the sediment and the leaves out of the ponds. So, I mean, one could say that all 60% would be towards MS4. It's all part of the plan. Yeah.
And how did you arrive to the 1250, the increase? 12.
12.
Or 12, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, it's 12.
Yep. So I don't know, Brenda, you want to kind of step in with? what
We
you're thinking?
looked at the cash that was needed in the fund, the stormwater fund for the next 5 years to do operating.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So basically, what my plan is, we have 100 ponds we want to maintain, or want to get back to, basically hire a company to come in and clear cut them, remove all the vegetation, all the trees, and get them back to where we can manage them, which is basically mow them with a flail mower a couple times a year. And so we're looking at proposing, doing 20 ponds a year at $2,000, or would it be $2,000 per pond? Is that right? No, my math is wrong.
We've got 200,000 for stormwater projects in 19.
Right. So, yeah, so pond maintenance, clear cutting, 100 ponds, 20 ponds per year at 4,000 per pond average. So over 5 years, that would be our $200,000.
Got it.
So the $12 would not only include, the hiring of the full-time position, but also maintaining and getting the ponds cut down to where they should be.
So
I'm sorry, you done?
No, I'm done, sorry.
Yeah.
Are you anticipating hiring a certified MS4 or hiring within, or what are you thinking?
I would hire an operator, just because, we can train them, send them to trainings and get them certified to do illicit discharge testing, pre and post management of stormwater runoff at construction sites. Those are things that we can train and send them to. What we can't train is operation. He's going to need to have operational experience with, running the sweeper, running the skid steer, mowing banks. Ultimately we're thinking about getting a tractor with a flail mower to mow our embankments around all of our ponds, snow removal, that kind of thing. So I'm looking for more of an operator at this point in time.
So you're going with the in open?
Yep, open, correct, yep.
they'd have to have a CDL.
We have to have a CDL, yes. Yep.
Well, it makes sense. We continue to have issues with these ponds that aren't being taken care of. I know there's probably more coming up.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll have to start doing annual reports to the DNR, showing them that we're doing the illicit discharge testing, that we're maintaining them, that we're doing the pre and post construction, that we're doing public outreach. I mean, it's all things that we're going to have to do, and we need someone to do that. So,
Cost to the general fund's about 35,000, because it's only about 35% of the, 35% of the total cost.
So you're not splitting the full time, out of these split 60, 30, 10?
60% would go to the storm sewer utility, which is
You're just
not on the
talking the money,
taxes.
the revenue's
I'm
splitting.
just telling you what, of the 87,000 or so that the total cost of the employee is,
Yeah.
only 35 of it will go against the
general
budget that you guys are working on, the general fund budget.
General fund.
All the rest of it will go to the storm sewer budget.
Okay. Well, I move we approve for that.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
okay, thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Mike?
Hi. So, like Mike, my predecessor, I believe the last two, had also requested additional staff to assist in the department. I've been here with the city about 6 weeks, I want to say, and it was pretty evident within a few days of my starting that there was a great need to hire an additional staff member to assist with the functions of the clerk and finance office. The need is, it's pretty great. It's, like I said, people have requested, the last two clerks have requested it. The workload hasn't decreased, it's only gone up. With the different types of licensing that we've added, projected increase in population will just, again, increase the workload of the staff as far as voter registrations, the different types of licensing, dogs and cats, and just everything that comes along with it. What I'd like to do is hire for now, because we've assessed that possibly right now, what we need is just a part-time person so that the current deputy clerk can assist me in focusing on catching up with different tasks that may have been somewhat neglected over the years. I'd like to update some forms, information on the website that we have. Train poll workers, we just don't have enough resources with the deputy. She serves as a dual role. As I said in the memo, she does front desk reception, she does accounting, she takes payments, and then she also assists with the clerk's duties. And so you have one person who is stretched in so many directions. And again, it was very evident within days of being here that we needed someone to help assist, to kind of get the clerk's office back where it should be, to provide the level of service that customers need. Well, I mean, that's not fair. Karen's really good. She's very good at what she does. But I would like to have someone assist her so that we can focus more on other duties that, like I said, just hasn't been done in a while.
What are we not providing? What haven't we met as far as the customers are concerned?
Well, so yeah, I wanted to strike that. Customer service is very good. What has been somewhat neglected is primarily our records retention. And I know pictures speak louder than words, and if I could do it again, I would take some pictures and just show you guys what we have there in the backs, the files, the cabinets filled with records that honestly probably is older than me. That
This is Jan's doing, that she's
Well,
trying to figure out?
there's stuff that, those files I've been here 17 years, and I know there's files in that we haven't looked at. We haven't gone through, and we haven't had time to, before Nancy left, she did a little bit of purging to give us some room so we could, but there's also filing cabinets in 211 that have information that's, as she's saying, before me, because one time I was in there looking for something, and the application material from when I was hired is still in there. Not, it's just the thing that they felt they had to keep everything.
What is that, on chalkboard with?
And this ties into with the,
Electronic
Looking for.
record
right,
system.
that they've started upstairs, that you guys approved that new system, so that would also be something. And it isn't so much that Karen would be doing maybe the actual scanning, but we have to go through all of those records and say, okay, we have 9 copies of this, we only need, this is something that, we haven't had this calculators for 27 years, we can throw the manual away.
So if we hire this person at part-time, they get it all done, what, we letting them go? Let them go, whoever?
Oh, I don't think the workload's gonna decrease. I mean, we're down 2 people from when I came.
Why, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like we've added staff, because we had 8 people back there when I came, and now we have 6. So,
And we're continuing to increase population.
well, and then elections is another area. I mean,
There's a lot more voters, like in person. I think just last week, probably near 100. And then there's the new nursing home that just added to it with our special voting deputies that have to go out there. But the records retention is a really big piece to it. It really is. And with the help of the IT, we're going to start implementing a searchable records management program, therefore, is what we have. That takes time. And I don't foresee this, being accomplished in 6 months. It's going to take a lot of time. It took time for it to get like that. It's going to take time to clean it up. But as Devin says, and I said, the workload is not decreasing at all.
Is this, in essence, bringing Jan's job back?
No.
Not an executive secretary?
No, but bringing back some of the stuff that she did or similar type duties. I mean, and some of the things involve Brenda's time or involve my time, not that we don't mind doing it, but it's just if you had someone that,
Yeah.
because we all pitch in where we have to pitch in, but we always laugh because Brenda will go to this long row of filing cabinets that are back there, and we have to try to guess where things are.
What?
We call it, well, God rest her soul, but we call it the doing and filing system because she had her own way of filing things, and you have to guess as, so if we had everything, can get them into the system that it's searchable.
Well, and if somebody, also if you had somebody who was actually working with that, cleaning it out,
Yep.
they'd probably get to know what's in there and be able to find things a little more
And like I
quickly,
said,
which would free up time for.
we can bring someone in to actually do the scanning, next summer,
Okay.
but someone still has to look, we can't have some 19-year-old college student coming in and deciding what we're gonna keep and what. So, it's kind of a 2-step
I
process.
assume we would hire with the potential of going full-time
At
as.
some point, if, as the need, if we saw there was a need.
Reevaluate.
So
Would
what
they
this
get
person would.
coffee cups and coffee maybe in here every so often again?
All right then. But it'd be a thing where like maybe from 10 to 2.
Better hope, prove it.
From 10 to 2 or from 9 to 1 or some section of each day, or depending on how they wanted to do it, they would do the reception area and deal with that, and that would free up Karen then to do,
What's Karen's busiest time period, do you know?
She's been pretty busy.
the
I
time?
really haven't locked down a specific time frame. I mean, she answers phone calls, she directs customers. It's always
Yeah,
something.
no, I'm aware of that.
and because that's the first desk that people see when they come in the building, no matter even how many signs you put up,
Regardless
they
of
still
signage,
stop
yeah.
there.
What's the pay rate that you're planning to hire this person?
I believe Brenda said the entry level,
20, it's about $23,000, because they would have retirement in FICA, they would not be health insurance eligible.
Okay, what's the hourly
You have
rate?
that, Brenda? You're gonna put it same as upstairs, right?
About 21 something, or
It would start for 2019,
20?
at 1974.
Is that the community development clerk? Yeah. So about just under $20 an hour.
so I have a lot of plans and not enough people to get it done. Is
I
what's
think this-
happening.
I think this is a wise use of the resources because it will free up time for Brenda and for Devin. So I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second, but I do have a question. So how does this work? This is entry level. So this is, anybody that we bring in entry level is at that rate?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
No matter if they had 100 years, that's where they would start, would be at that rate. And then the scale goes up every year. Potentially goes up every year if you approve an increase across the board, but then it goes up every year of experience, they move up until they get to 5 years, and that's the max.
Including part-time?
Yes. Yep.
Gotcha.
But they would not have health insurance benefits,
Correct.
sick leave, holiday pay, those type of things. The only thing they would be retirement.
Well, now clarify for me, though, that we just approved Mike's request, we're
Yep.
possibly approving this. We still have to come back, once we get everything.
Once you make the decisions you make today,
Yeah.
then I'll prepare the preliminary budget, which I'll have done in a couple days. And then next week, that's what you guys will go do. You go department by department and look at these, potentially look at these again, and then look at operational requests from all the departments. And then come up with a final, a proposed budget that'll be published and go to the council.
I would assume all of this is out of general fund.
Correct. Well, we probably would do an allocation of some of it to what, similar to, was on that chart, because there'll be
Right.
water and sewer
Yep.
involved, because they'll be collecting bills and stuff. So whatever Karen's right now is being assessed, I think,
Well, we would have to, we'll look at that, but when Karen's back, she's not doing those duties, but
Right.
we'll kind of.
We'd have to look at
We'll
that,
look
but-
at it.
But she's deputy clerk, that doesn't weigh on her pay scale?
Karen's at a higher rate because she's a deputy clerk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she'd
That's
stay
what
at
I'm
that
asking.
rate, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's about 23,500 a year is what the cost would be to the general fund, maybe a little less if we allocate some to the utility.
Got it. So I seconded it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Y'all might want to leave and shut the door.
Hello.
Just a reminder, we got a meeting at 4, just a reminder.
What are you trying to say?
Oh, I'm just reminding, we don't have a ton left to do, but
Man alive.
2 minutes.
Like that.
Keep things moving.
Well, okay, then I'll get started. So there's basically, I guess, 3 personnel requests that I have in here. One is for an additional police patrol officer. The other is a $10,000 increase to an already existing budget for part-time officers. I would change that and make a CSO program. And then the other was put in here basically just as a planning notification, kind of get something in the plan for growth, and the reclassification of the detective sergeant to a lieutenant position. So we'll start with the police patrol officer. This was a request made last year for 3 officers. We were granted 2. I made promises that we would ask for the 3rd this year, so that's why I'm here. The main reason for that is to try and get to the staffing level of 3 officers working between the hours of 11 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the following morning, or 4 o'clock in the following morning on a weekend. Those are the busiest times for us, and it's unreasonable at the rate of growth that we have and the rate of people coming into this city that we would have 2 officers working in this city. I don't think it's safe, and I don't think it's reasonable. That extra position would allow us to get to that other officer out there all the time. I guess I'll stop there if you guys want questions on.
Well,
That one.
realizing we're short down 5 officers,
Well, right now, yeah.
what's a time frame to even, I mean, will we see this impact sooner than later for next year?
If this was approved, you wouldn't see this impact until early spring.
Okay. 91, Devin, is the base salary plus benefits?
Correct. 89, 91, somewhere in there. That is assuming they take family insurance. We always have to make that assumption with a new employee, so potentially, depending on what they come in.
It's a safety issue.
It's a huge safety issue. I mean, we just heard a study on Carmichael Corridor, 34,000 cars a day between Crestview and Cooley, and there's at least a crash there every day.
And we're not getting any better with transfers out of the city, so,
I believe we're at 12 this year to Winnebago Mental Health in Oshkosh.
which is 2 officers out.
2 officers out.
What's that compared to last year?
It's about the same rate.
It's been steady for a while.
Yes.
They're slowly trying to figure that out, but it didn't.
No.
How long
It's
does it
going to
take
have to happen at a
12
legislative
Yeah,
level.
12 hours
4
total?
over, 4 back, plus whatever time.
That's a 10-hour round trip for 2 officers. Which then, if you call the next shift in early to do the transport as part of their shift, then, you still got to cover those shifts that are left vacant. So now I've got guys working 14, 16-hour shifts, which is not safe either.
No, we just saw a report on that, EMS, so.
Yeah.
Just this last weekend, we had 2 people working Saturday night, there was a drunk driver that ended up fighting with both of them. Both of them, reported injuries from the incident, and now what are you doing when you got 2 people dealing with that one person? There's nobody left in the city to deal with anything else that's happening.
So let me ask you, what happens when that happens? Do managers, sergeants, or lieutenants, or chiefs get called to do?
Absolutely.
So we're not lacking that coverage?
No. So we've had sergeants come out on their off time to deal with calls and help. The lieutenant has been out. I've come out to scenes to assist.
Is it overwhelmed when you're at 2 like that on a Saturday night?
Oh, it's nuts.
Would this save
I
money on
don't know.
overtime?
I don't even know the other words to describe it. It's crazy.
Would this save money on overtime?
Yeah.
How much do you think it would save on overtime?
Well, I don't know. If you look at this year, which was kind of an anomaly with 5 out right now, I mean, we're covering our schedule with 20% of our patrol staff out, The
Brenda,
only way
what's
to
their
cover
over-
the cover those shifts is with overtime.
Yeah.
What's their overtime unless you know it offhand?
What is our overtime budget
To date,
for
for the,
where we're at?
yeah,
What we spent this year? I think we're at about 100%.
100% over, plus over.
No, but
So you've
It's only
burned
5
up,
months, he's saying.
It's only October.
At 100.
he's burned up all his,
That's what he's saying. I don't know that.
so you have not.
I believe so. There's some reimbursements coming in. I don't know if those go back into mine or if those go on the revenue side. I don't know how that works.
Then the overall budget within personnel and patrol will probably be okay though, because we've had some positions not filled and we've had.
Well, yeah, we've had-
savings on health insurance. So I think
Yeah.
the total personnel budget will be okay this year, but he's going to be over the overtime part of that.
Yeah, I'll be over in certain line items this year, but the overall budget should be, there should be some savings from the overall budget, I would assume.
But again, and as we've done in the past, we hire this as a full-time person, something goes off the rails, I don't want to let anybody go. I don't want to decrease.
Well, and that's a big reason, and that I'll talk about at the next meeting, that some of those requests are in there. But we'll address that stuff at that meeting. But I hear you, I don't want to have to cut people either. But we can't continue to function at this staffing level.
And it's obvious, because you burned up 100% of your overtime, that we have a short. That's just business 101.
Well, and it's not every year that we're short like
Right.
we are. I mean, this is really, the big part of it is because we've got openings that we were unable to fill, and then you've got the other issues going on, the military leave. Now they're talking about maybe one of my officers getting deployed for a year in the military. So, I mean, it's just, every time you think you're getting ahead and get your head above water, someone pulls you back down.
When that happens, does a position open up, or do you have to allocate that position?
You
That
Person?
position is
You have to
saved,
leave it
Got it.
for him or her.
can't temporarily fill it or anything.
I understand that.
I don't want to belittle the last past practice of hiring, but did we do our due diligence in looking into this stuff? Or is it just kind of, that happens, that's the kind?
I think the very reason that we did do our due diligence explains why we had 13 acceptable candidates on our list and we were only able to hire 3 of them.
And they did quite a bit of preliminary screening even prior to the interviews, so.
So the pool is just not that big anymore.
No, and we've got to change the way we do things. We've got to recruit and we've got to try and steal qualified candidates from other places.
So are you saying that?
Say that on the record?
When you do your due diligence from the pool,
I think we started with
we've got members of the pool that don't belong there?
33 applicants that were qualified, and after we interviewed all 33 of them, and after our interviews, we scrapped 20 of them because of poor conduct issues. We ended up with 13 that went to police and fire that gave us a list. And out of those 13, we ended up with 3.
So does that mean that the original screening needs to be beefed up?
Well, the first screening they do is more of a cursory level, and then when they actually go to hire them, then it's a much more intense
Yeah,
process.
so there's a psychological and a physical and
It's about
a background investigation, and that's where all these people were washing out, is in the thorough screening area.
So it worked.
So, and we purge them from our pool then?
Yes,
Okay. So they, if they reapply, they wouldn't
correct.
get into the process.
How many are in the pool right now?
0.
That's, so we're working on eligibility list right now.
Okay.
Application process closes on Friday.
Do you have any indication or no of if there are any coming in?
We're at
15,
Oh, okay, good.
but we usually
And
get,
this week, they'll start barreling in now.
people wait until the last minute.
I'll move we approve this based on the information provided at this point.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
And you've got the lieutenant,
I was going to talk about the CSOs
you've got
first.
the CSO, that's what I said.
So right now we have a budget for $20,000 for part-time officers. For the last 3 years, we've had 3 part-time officers who have logged maybe a total of 20 hours in that time frame. Because they didn't work a lot of shifts, they forget how we do things from time to time, so we were going to have them go through remedial training, basically ride with a supervisor, figure out exactly how to run the computer, how we do our paperwork. None of them have chosen to come in to do training shifts. I started looking at it, and I think that we could use that money for the community in a lot better ways to do a CSO program. For those of you not aware of CSO programs, they're usually filled by people looking to get into the career field of law enforcement. Sometimes they are people that are retired from their original career and looking for some part-time work. It's $12 an hour that you pay them. It's a part-time position. And they can help with vehicle unlocks, animal complaints, code compliance, funeral escorts. They can assist with traffic direction at traffic crashes. I did the numbers in my proposal. From 2017, I think there was over 19,000 units of activity, and the CSOs, if we had them, could have assisted with over 24% of those calls, which then alleviates the full-time officer to do the things that they need to do, right? Not to mention, when I talk about having 2 or 3 people even working, and you have a crash up on the Carmichael corridor, it takes more than 1 or 2 people to safely navigate that with traffic direction and closing lanes and things like that. It's having a CSO program, those guys would be able to do that. Our paper delivery, we have to make 2 trips to City Hall every day, 2 trips up to the government center. Right now, it's an officer that has to do that. CSOs could do that. Paper service, CSOs could do that. There's a lot of activity that a CSO program could do. It does another thing. It helps for recruiting when we're ready to hire. Because they know the department, they know the way they do things. We get to know them. We get to know them as a person. We get to see if they're going to be a good fit within our agency. I can't say enough about CSO programs from what I've researched and reached out to the 40-something departments in the state of Wisconsin that have CSO programs, and they all wouldn't trade them for the world.
How about the respect factor, Jeff?
Respect factor.
To me, it'd be like a security guard. I mean, they're gonna run into issues where people are not gonna listen to them. I mean, what's the recourse? What's your protocol for that? And making sure they're respected as a uniformed officer, if you will. Not a peace officer, obviously.
I don't know how that's any different than a full-time officer being disrespected.
They are, so you're asking for a vehicle for them?
Yeah, so what I'm asking for is an additional $10,000 to be able to fund it for the hours that I wanted to fund it, and then a vehicle. Yeah.
But, and the vehicle would be branded Hudson Police?
It would be branded Hudson Community Service. Instead of like on our police cars, it says Police Hudson, theirs would say Community Service Hudson.
Well, that goes kind of to Randy's point. If it were branded Hudson Police somehow, Hudson Police Department Community Service Officer, but I think that they would get their respect if they're branded with the Hudson.
They would, but
Police
you kind of set them up. You don't want people to confuse them as full-time
being a
police officers either,
officer. I get it.
because that's a safety issue for them, because they basically get a flashlight and some pepper spray. And that's to safety if they have a vicious dog or something that they're on a complaint for. That's what they have, that equipment.
Well, has there been a problem with disrespect of employees?
No, and from all the agencies that I talk to, they don't have an issue with that with their CSOs either.
Oh, turn the news on, geez, everybody's getting.
He's talking about 2 cops that just got into a fight.
Well, the courts have held that that's what we sign up for. you know.
I know, but I'm just saying, so, don't get me wrong, because I'm not opposed to this, but I see Randy's point, that if people see community service officer, they don't equate that with the police department, that they are a sanctioned employee of the police department. I
How's
don't
it
know.
any?
I have no idea that if that creates a huge problem or not.
I view it the same as one of our as a parking attendant. I think they'd be viewed the same.
They don't get any respect.
No, they don't. But people still listen to them. They still do. I mean, and if they're going to a situation that's potentially dangerous, they're going to have, that's going to be a full-time officer that's going to be dealing with it.
And are you gonna get the quality at a $12 rate, and somebody that actually got put up with that crap?
Because the people that actually want to get into law enforcement and want to get their foot in the door are going to do it for $12 an hour.
Because I can't see us sending a college kid into some of these issues. I mean, they might be trivial to you or us, but sending a college kid or whatnot into some of these things, I don't know. And I'm not saying no, Jeff, but I want to talk it through.
Well, I don't know either. I mean, we've not had that here. The last time we had the CSO type issue was when we had the CSO medics, where the paramedics were also our CSOs, and they didn't run into any of those issues. And like I said, primarily they do the community service type complaints. They're the happy joy type complaints where someone's locked out of their car and
Was this part-time?
yes.
So if he gets bit at a dog, our insurance covers that.
Anybody that's, well, a dog, like, not our
Well,
dog.
when he's doing, kennel.
Correct, yes.
or
They
cat-
are, anybody that's on our payroll, even technically you guys, would be covered under workers' comp because you're paid.
I got hurt. I feel faint with this.
So yes, they would be covered by workers' comp.
If we started this program, Jeff, are we buying into this for a certain amount of time? I mean, obviously, a new vehicle.
Not new used, right?
Well, we'd try to find a used one, right,
Right.
and equip it. We wouldn't buy a brand new
There
one.
and all that stuff. I mean, is there sort of a trial period?
Well, I think it's an investment, right? So, I mean, I guess you guys would have to figure out, along with me, if the investment is paying off or not. But I certainly think we get a better bang for our buck with this type of a system than we have with our part-time police officer program.
So knowing our parking is coming down shortly here to us, do you envision the parking being done by this person? Being overseen by you?
Separate issues. I think these people could assist with parking, especially outside of the downtown proper, right, with parking complaints.
Well,
and-
mounting the car with
Like that.
the unit that would possibly be doing.
I think they would certainly be available to assist the parking division. Absolutely.
But not per se the parking person.
No. I think those are two separate animals.
So coming down the road, you're gonna ask for a parking coordinator?
Yes?
Oh,
I don't know if that's me asking for it. I think that's
Depends what comes
I
out
haven't
of the
even,
parking
yeah,
proposal.
I think we have to meet and talk about that.
Well, yeah, there's some i's and t's to be crossed about that, that whole part of that
And that would come out of-
discussion.
And that would come out of the parking fund. So
Right.
it wouldn't be impacting the general fund.
Yeah, so it's a little different.
Also looking for, it could possibly fund this if we put parking ticket meters. So,
Back to your question about college students. Chippewa Valley Technical College has their criminal justice system or program, it's a 4-semester program, so if you look for students who are in their last year, or, their second year, then they'd at least have a little bit more experience than somebody who's fresh in that program.
Also WITC.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to
WITC.
probably hold off on
Okay.
that one.
No, we can't, we gotta get it done. Just have to start the other meeting.
So you want to transfer the 30 from, and then add 10, so, or the 20, what is it?
The 20 is already in there, he wants to go up to 30.
So an extra 10. 28,000, you're asking for 30.
Yes.
From
That
there.
extra $1,600 would be used to outfit the CSOs with uniforms and equipment.
Recess.
Plus a patrol vehicle, or a CSO vehicle, correct?
In addition to that, yes.
Okay, so the 10,000 plus 45,000, correct?
Give or take, it's a best guess,
Okay.
Because
I
of
don't-
mine used.
because I wasn't able to get a good answer from the people I talked to at this point, so. It's best guess, but it would probably, it's a overestimation, right? Thinking that I could do it for,
But either way, you need
You don't
to
think
add
this
a
is gonna
car.
take
we
over?
would need to have a vehicle dedicated for that service, right? Just because of the markings on it.
You don't have anything that you could repurpose?
Not right
I
now.
was just asking.
Yeah, Trailblazer.
No, because you have to have something big enough where you can have a catch pole and a kennel,
Mm.
and things in there, so.
All right, look, we're under a time constraint. I don't want to limit questions if you think they're really pertinent to your decision, but we've got a couple other issues that have to be resolved before we go into the special meeting.
I'd like to see this program being tried. I mean, I would move
Yes,
to approve.
okay, I'll second.
Motion is second to approve. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
And then that last item there with the reclassification is, like I said, just to say, hey, this is like a future plan. We're going to continue to grow. The city's going to continue to grow. It was kind of put in there as a, in the future, we're going to need to start addressing that type of growth with that reclassification, and that's more or less why I put that in there.
Is that additional money?
The salary is additional $12,000, but I think
$12,000.
I would assume that the
Your insurance.
insurance would stay the same, but retirement will go up because that's based on a
because there'll
percentage.
be a little bit more pay.
Yeah,
The wage rate would be more.
but I think it saves money in overtime out of that division.
Jeff, so you have you and Jason are the first and second. What is this to be, third, or is this
Be the same as
equal?
It'd be the same as Jason,
So you're gonna
but
have,
over admin and investigations, because right now I'm directly overseeing that.
okay.
Whereas Jason oversees the patrol aspect of what we do. Right now, I'm overseeing the investigation. So we have a major crime scene. I'm there to
So does that take
basically
away,
work the crime scene.
does that take away seniority from Jason? I mean, is that some,
No, they'd be equal.
You'd have one less sergeant.
I guess, didn't we kind of, or you kind of hire him to be your number 2 in command, and now you're adding somebody else, so I guess I'm not buying into that, I guess, I don't know.
For what?
Well, why would you have two behind you? Should it be you 1, Jason 2, and this one number 3?
Because it's a different set of responsibilities. Jason and this person would be on equal playing fields. One would oversee administration and investigations, and the other one oversees patrol. So it's a different function. It's like if you have someone that oversees your housekeeping staff, and then you have someone that oversees the guest services or something. It's the same kind of.
Yeah, but I have it's 1, 2, 3, it's not a 1, 2, 2. I don't agree with it, so.
So you're on site for an investigation? You're basically running that investigation?
Yeah, instead of making phone calls to Devin and the mayor to keep them in the loop, I'm dealing with interviews and making sure the officers and detectives are running the crime scene properly and getting warrants where they need to, and I'm communicating with the
on-site
district attorney's office, and I'm on site and
Supervising.
supervising, instead of dealing with the media and dealing with the powers in the city that need to be kept up to speed. It's an important position, like I said. I think it's important. We need to get there at some point. If I had to take anything out of this proposal, that would be one of the things I took out.
So Randy, what would you need in order to support this?
Chain of command, I don't see it as separate. I see you convolute, you're cloudying the chain of command to me. I don't.
Well, they would both be reporting to Jeff.
Yeah, there should be a 1, 2, 3. And plus you're lessening what I think is what we did with the first lieutenant position. To me,
And that's the way we used to do it. The lieutenant position oversaw the patrol division and the investigations area and admin. But one person can't, there's not enough time in the day to oversee all three of those
Let me ask
areas.
this, what would be the reason that there had to be a 2 and a 3? Well, I mean, as far as like chain of command, I'm not visualizing,
progressive chain of command.
but as far as what though? I mean, you have a lieutenant, you have another lieutenant, and somebody doesn't like the new lieutenant's decision, and they go to the lieutenant that you would think would be number 2 then to, but if they're overseeing 2 completely different areas, I don't see where that, they would go immediately to Jeff, I would think. You know, obviously I haven't sat on public safety, okay? You do, and I respect all of your knowledge, experience, and wisdom on that. I'm just not seeing it myself here. I don't get it. You know, when I was in a position where I had assistant managers, they weren't, you know, 2, 3, and 4. They were all just equivalent assistant managers, and they all came in at different times. So I'm not getting it. I don't understand that.
Equals. It's just like the patrol sergeants. All 4 of those patrol sergeants are equals. And the detective sergeant isn't equal to them. But if you work under investigations, your chain of command is to report to that supervisor. If you work under patrol,
I
you have to
just
go
don't
up that
agree.
chain.
Maybe I need to flush it out more, but at
Is it
this point, no.
is it a safety thing that you're concerned
I
about?
think, who's calling who? You get confused? Who's gonna call who in second when you're not available?
It depends what function it is. If it's a homicide, it's going to be the lieutenant that oversees investigations. If it's a pursuit, you know, or an assault on an officer, it's going to be,
So if those two butt heads or 2 different opinions on a decision, they're gonna call you on when you're out of town?
tiebreaker.
No, I don't agree with that.
You frame it in, what do other communities do? You know, similar size or larger than us?
It'd be a different title, then you start.
Yeah, it'd be the same concept, but they'd be called captains or deputy chiefs. It's the same job function.
So other communities don't have this 1, 2, 3 layer?
No. You know, you have the chief, and then you have deputy chiefs, and then you have captains, and then lieutenants, and then sergeants. Whereas here we have a chief and a lieutenant. At some point, we're going to need a chief, 2 lieutenants, down to the sergeants, right? But the lieutenant job function here is the same as anywhere else that they might call a captain or a deputy chief. We don't have that middle level administrator, because we're not big enough, we don't need that.
I need to flush it. I don't agree with it, so to me, you're convoluting the process or the chain.
All right, so,
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
a motion second,
Sorry.
motion second to approve discussion?
Yeah. So Devin, again, this would fall on the general fund as a line item. It's something that we can relook at as a
It would
group.
go in under the salary or under probably, we'd have to shift it around, and I'll take care of that. And then if next week you need to cut $8,000 or $10,000 theoretically, you could come back and say, okay.
Thank you.
All right, motion is second, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion's approved. Thanks, chief.
Number 4 is whether or not we want to put an annual adjustment on across the board type thing. I preliminary put 2% in. Do you want me to just leave that in and see where that gets us? And then, because that's what we've done in the past, or is that okay with everybody? And we'll see where we are at that, and then if you guys want to make an adjustment.
What's been the inflation rate?
Pardon me?
What's the inflation rate?
I would have to look at that. We've done 2% the last whatever years, but I can check on that before next week. But as a starting point, I'll put it in at 2, and then we can,
Okay,
next week if you want to do something different. I'll look at that inflation rate though,
okay.
Do you need a motion on that?
because you'll be looking at it next week, so.
Sure.
All right, we're coming up on 4 o'clock, and we are noticed to have this meeting at 4. We do have to go into closed session to discuss the requests for salary increases for personnel, specific requests. My suggestion is that we, well, Devin, you say that we need to do this today?
I would like to get it done today, yes.
I can move to suspend until 5,
Well, you could after
and
the
then
council meeting,
reconvene.
We can
or recess
we can
till 5.
recess, sure.
or whenever the council meeting finishes up,
Okay.
yes.
I'll move to recess until the conclusion of the posted meeting
Right, the
for
special meeting.
council.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion second to go into recess. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Stand in recess, reconvene after the special council meeting.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, I'll make the motion that we go into closed session.
Second?
do I have to read that?
Oh, you have to read that whole
Council's
thing.
done.
You should have the.
So Joyce did the close.
Oh, he has to read
He has
the,
to read
Okay, discussion and possible action on entering into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub 1 sub C to discuss A, specific employee salary request and employee reclassification request for 2019 general fund budget, and B, clarification on retroactive date for EMS operations supervisor stipend.
okay, move to go into closed session.
Second.
Got a motion second to go into closed session. Roll call?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's right, it's a committee. All those, so motion passes, and we will step across the hall, go back, excuse me, into closed session. Thank you. All right, we're back in open session. Is there a motion?
I will move that we accept the clerk stipend to administrative assistant. And then I will also, in the same motion, move the fire chief, to his 5-year stipend increase effective January 1st.
Salary increase.
Salary.
I'll second.
Got a motion, a second? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
And I move that we add an additional week of stipend to the EMS operations supervisor.
I'll second that.
Got a motion, a second? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. I will email you, hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, early Wednesday, I'll have your preliminary books, your smaller books ready for you guys. I will email you when they're ready, and then if you could pick them up down there, I'll have them ready for you.
Move to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for a long day, huh?